Foam roll strategies for the lower back. I'm Jeremy, the tall trainer, by the way. Basically what you're going to use the foam roll for is to try to help loosen up the legs, loosen up the hips. And if you loosen up the hips, then you can keep the lower back straighter and more protected, and you aggravate it less. So these are kind of some various kind of stretches in a way to loosen up the hips so they move instead of the lower back. So one of the main ones, the one that I find works the most, is the IT band. And so what you're going to do is you're going to set yourself up on the side of the foam roll just below the hip. When you're doing foam roll, I recommend before a workout is an awesome time to do foam roll, and then maybe a couple times a day. So whenever you start to feel tight, or you're getting up from being seated or still for a long time, and a lot of times things are tight at that moment, you could do the foam roll to loosen some of those things up so your back isn't quite as bothered. So the IT band right on the side of the leg, and you're going to be slightly towards the front if we can. So lean slightly towards the front, relax the thigh. So as you're going to feel that jamming into the IT band, it's not going to feel good. It's going to feel like somebody's digging their knuckles in the side of your leg. But that is going to help loosen up that band. So you're going to roll to a tender spot, and you're going to hold about 20 seconds or so. So you're actually waiting until the pain shifts a little bit, so the pain goes down a little bit. It doesn't go away, it just goes down a little bit. And that's when you know it's time to roll on to the next spot. You're going to try to find a few spots, working your way down to the knee. Do not roll on the knee or don't roll on the hip. So in between the hip and the knee, but not on either one. And so you're going to find a bunch of spots there. If you need more pressure on the foam roll, you can take the other leg. Instead of using it to help propel you forward, you can lay it on top of the bottom leg to get more pressure there. And if you need a little bit more, you can bend both legs there, and that will get some more pressure on the IT band as well. Do both sides, and that will help out quite a bit. Another stretch that's really good is the hip flexor. So sometimes the hip flexor is really, really tight. So the foam roll in the hip flexor, you're going to face the floor for this one. And, elbows on the ground. You start off on the front of the hip there, and this one, you actually are going to be kind of on the hip, but we're not really on the ball and socket of the hip. We're actually above that, and so we're going to keep this knee bent, so this knee's kind of on the ground. Try to relax it a bit, and we're aiming for just above, or actually just below the crest of the hip, and kind of just above, where it bends there. So right in that bend where the leg bends, that's the place where we're putting that foam roll pressure on. And so as we roll in there, it's usually a very like a one spot kind of thing. And it's not going to be there's not a whole lot of length to get to that one. So just that one spot, you might be able to lean towards the outside a little bit, so you're leaning back this way to get it there, and trying to find a spot, just a smaller area there. IT band runs the whole length of the leg. That one's just kind of more, just right in there. Another one that can be helpful is the piriformis. It's one of the it's easier just to say it's one of the glutes, but it's not really. It's a rotator, a lateral rotator of the hip. And what you're going to do is you're going to sit on here, cross the leg over, try to keep the back straight. So even when you're doing these, try to keep the back straight. So move your hand to allow the back to stay as straight as you can. And you're going to be rolling between the hip socket and the tailbone. So that's going to be the tender spot. Then there's going to be a couple spots in there. So again, it's not as big of an area. I know some of you might make the joke that, my butt's pretty big, so it's going to take me a while to roll that one. It's not. It's not. This area is still a very small area. So the size of your butt does not take into effect the size of these muscles there. So we're going in there and finding a spot. Again, you're going to find it. You're going to camp out there a little bit, and that's going to again help free up some motion to the hips, so you can use the hips more than the lower back. The final one that can be helpful too is the upper hamstring. So you're going to sit on the foam roll, and you're going to kind of shift back. And you're going to let yourself kind of settle in, so your tailbone, the bones that you normally sit on are actually behind the foam roll. So you're actually sitting, and the pressure's on the hamstring as you're doing that. So you got some pressure there. If you want to make it a little bit more, you can cross the ankle over, and that's just going to help put a little down pressure on there. So that can free up the hamstrings if maybe they're something that's making it tight. So that combination of them, could free up some good motion. If you don't have a lot of time, I recommend just go for the IT band. That one's going to be the most helpful. This is Jeremy Beer saying have fun, be safe.